All right, very good. Thanks everyone for pausing for that. We're ready to go.
Great, thank you, Gretchen. Welcome everybody. This is the last meeting of the year, at least for our planned quarterly meetings for the Community Police Review Board. So we will get started. It looks like we'll probably have a light agenda tonight. I'm Jody Sherwood, the chair of the board. And why don't we go ahead and go around the room? Well, actually, we'll do roll call, right?
You bet. I'd be happy to call roll. Vice Chair Clapper.
Present.
Thank you. Let's see. Member McDaniel.
Present.
And members Rice.
Yeah, I'm here.
Member Teed.
Present.
Thank you. Guest and applicant Dr. Brown.
Great.
Present.
Hi, Dr.
Welcome.
Brown.
Hello.
I'm pleased to hear you're interested in applying.
Yes, I think I have applied, but I think Gretchen said things are on hold at the moment. Is that correct? Right?
That's correct. That's correct. The commission, or excuse me, the mayor and the boards, I'm sorry, the mayor and the council members who are part of the boards and commissions appointments committee decided this is a really interesting and critical time with community policing and with the audit pending. And they have, I think, 13 applications pending before the Community Police Review Board. So they thought that it would be beneficial to make sense to pause and conduct interviews of members. And so they're interested in selecting a group and then conducting interviews. There might also be some interest in pausing to kind of confirm the role of the board as we look at its role within this broader accountability picture. But for now, what they decided to do was not make decisions. That they held a meeting on Thursday last week and decided not to move forward with just appointments, and they'd like to get some more information and conduct some interviews. In short, that's correct.
So a question for Chair Sherwood. Do I get good points by showing up?
As many points as we're allowed to give you, yes. Thank you. And actually, your interest has been really refreshing. So I know I appreciate having attendance at the meetings from guests, and thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
And I can reiterate that, yes, I know our mayor and council are always interested in, like, have folks been to a meeting and participated and kind of gotten to see what's involved, made sure it's of interest to them. You know, sometimes a board or commission can be different than what one imagines. And so it's always a good idea to visit. Before I go back to you, Jody, I want to make sure to also welcome Mark on staff with us from the legal department.
Okay, and Gretchen, can I also ask how many openings do we have or will we have by the end of the year? Do you know that?
You know,
in our
thank you. I think that we currently would have 2, and that by the end of the year we would have 3.
So if there are folks that are interested, now's the time to be putting in those applications while the process is being worked through. All right, so we do have our minutes that Gretchen sent out in our email. Hey, Steve, good to see you.
Hi, I just pressed the other button there. Oh.
So we do have our minutes. If we would like to review and approve those. Not sure if folks had the time to approve those or to read those, excuse me. If we don't need time to review those, so we could entertain a motion to approve those. Oops, I see you talking, Bevan, but I don't hear you.
You know, Bevan looks like her has a mute button on.
This is Michelle. I move approval of the minutes.
Hi, Michelle. Thank you. Do we have a second to approve the minutes?
I second.
Thank you. John Michael, second. And all those in favor of the motion to approve the minutes? Got that, Bevan? Right. It doesn't look
Aye.
like, thank you. Michelle, doesn't look like anybody opposed. Thank you, Gretchen, for those. Are there any considerations or requests, or excuse me, public comment time? Is there anybody that is joining us today that would like to address any matter before the board? Doesn't
I
appear
also
so.
can verify I did not receive any via email or anything like that.
Great, thank you. And I also.
Am I temporarily unmuted now?
Yes, we can hear you, Bevan. I'm slightly worried the doorbell is ringing and we might have to mute on my end for a moment for the dog. All right, so no public comment tonight. And are there any consideration of requests from the city manager or the chief of police? Gretchen.
Yeah, thank you. Just on behalf of the city manager's office, I wanted to provide a couple of updates and reaffirm our hope that you'll come alongside and work with the performance audit as it gets underway in Salem at the Salem Police Department. And Bevan and Jody may certainly have things to add. The auditor has now been selected. We've identified a firm to work with us, and Bevan participated in the committee that selected the auditor. And I would pause there and see, Bevan, if there was anything that you might want to share about that side of things, if you like.
Yeah, I would actually be interested to see where the project, or hear where the project is at, because I was part of the selection committee. We gave our scoring, and then they were going to work to kind of finalize the contract, and that's kind of the last I had heard. So I would actually kind of, like an update as well.
Very good. Well, yeah, so we've made an agreement with the company, and so we're moving forward with the audit company that was selected. And I might pronounce the name wrong. Hilliard Hines is what I believe the name of the company is that was selected by the committee. And so we're in the process right now of sharing quite a bit of documents and data with them as part of their initial inquiry for information that they had, is the state that we're in. And then we've also formed a steering committee that is made up of a variety of different people in the community to be kind of a sounding board to the auditing company as they progress through their work. And that's where I would say thank you to Jody, because Jody is going to be chairing that steering committee with this next step. And I'd pause there, Jody, and see if there was anything you wanted to share about that so far.
Yeah, thank you, Gretchen. I know we are just getting started. I have my first meeting on Thursday. That is, I believe, introduction and orientation to what's next. So I don't know much more than that, except that we are having conversations about dates and times and scheduling. So I think that before October is over, we would have our first meeting, I believe.
Yeah, my understanding is the first meeting is coming up on the 22nd of October, 4:30 to 6:30 of the steering committee. And that in advance of that, the performance audit company is doing kind of one-on-one conversations with each of the members of the steering committee to provide information and get some initial feedback.
Yeah, I think we just received all that information just within the last couple of days. So
yeah,
looking forward to that.
Yeah. So we're anticipating, just as we discussed, a pretty thorough performance audit of the department, where they're going to focus on interactions with unsheltered individuals experiencing behavioral health crisis, engagement with our broader community, leading with race, with attention to specific populations, response to assemblies, response to crowds, the capacity of the department itself, while it's not a fiscal audit, paying attention to the constraints of the resources in the budget as a factor in the conversation. Use of force is an area of study in the performance audit, and officer accountability. And this board, of course, plays a role in the picture of officer accountability. I remember Steve at the last meeting talked about accountability being related to or a part of a community and police understanding and kind of common agreement. And so the work that we do as a board is naturally and logically going to be a part of that broader picture and discussion about accountability and what does it look like, what are the expectations of the community, and what are the opportunities to examine situations when they occur. So we expect to see some natural touch points along the way from the company as points and questions arise that would be questions to bring back here for review and discussion to get your feedback on. And also just any time, if there's information or things that you want to bring up, that's welcome to have.
And
This is
Gretchen, I
Michelle.
believe, go ahead, please, Michelle.
Can I make a comment and then I have a question?
Please.
Okay, so for Jody and Bevan, thank you very much for your work on this and certainly participating at the early stages so we have a good foundation. I really appreciate that. My question is, does this firm have experience doing performance audit of police departments?
Yes, it does. I understand that. Actually, Bevan, I wonder if you'd want to reply to that. Yes, I would say yes, it does.
Yeah, they have significant experience doing audits of police departments. And they also have, I think, a really good balance of people on staff that have background in law enforcement, as well as people that have academic understandings of, law enforcement in the United States, as well as people that have more of an inclusionary and diversity lens to bring to the table. So we felt that was, they were really well-rounded in meeting those sort of needs that we had, the lenses that we were looking at going into the performance audit. And yeah.
Great, thank you.
And Gretchen, I think that we will have perhaps 4 to 6 meetings before the end of the year is up. So when we come back in January, there should be a good update for this committee as well. So I think that it's planned to go through next spring. Is that not right?
Yeah, my understanding is a report to council, that there would be interim reports to council, but sort of the conclusion report with the final recommendations to council is slated for March, if I'm not mistaken, because I think that there's recognition that there are some opportunities that may inform the budget cycle for next fiscal year. And the city operates on a July 1 to June 30 fiscal year, and council wanted to get some recommendations in advance of the budget. So that's correct.
Thank you. And I think that probably fair to say it'd be a significant topic in January, but there may be a chance that we would call another meeting together if the firm wanted to talk with the board. So.
Yeah, thank you. Please stand by in case we need to do that. And that's always true in case we get a case to review, but also that may also lend itself to another meeting. You're right.
Anything else on the request for considerations?
No.
I think that the police chief hiring process is in motion. Is there any information or updates on that?
Yeah, I can actually share that I'm going to be moderating a panel tomorrow. In fact, Jody, I think that you're on that panel.
I am.
We have finalists that have emerged in the process. The city conducted a national search, and we have a collection of finalists. And so the finalists will be moving through interviews tomorrow. There's 3 different groupings of interviews that will be occurring, and then from that would be ideally a shorter list of finalists that then we would have an opportunity for some community experience and interaction with before a chief is selected. So that's correct. We're in the throes of that right now.
Great. And I wonder, did anybody attend to see the new police department Did anyone get a chance to go tour? Just curious. Did you get to go, Gretchen?
No, that was, given the pandemic, just a very small number of people who went in. And what I think they're going to do is a series of kind of small opportunities for people to get to see it. It was certainly not the giant come and see that I think was initially contemplated. So I
Sure.
think there's going to be some small opportunities. I'll be sure to inform you when I see the chance to, I imagine people might be interested in walking through the building and having a tour, and I'll be sure to send that out as I receive that.
Sounds good. I have heard that they are moving in November, so we'll be hearing more about that as well. All right, so if no more considerations, we'll move on to the next agenda item. We have a new internal affairs sergeant. As we know, Sergeant Smith is retiring.
We do, and I want to apologize. It looks like they were unable to be here this evening. Sergeant Smith was involved in a trial, and I believe that precluded ability to participate this evening. But yeah, Sergeant Smith is retiring at the end of this calendar year, and the new internal affairs sergeant, since I see that he was unable to join us tonight, will be sending out sort of an introduction and maybe an email to kind of help introduce you all to him, so you know of him as a resource for the board.
Great.
Yeah, but I don't have that tonight. I apologize.
Okay. Thank you.
Gretchen, was he an internal rotation? Is this a rotationary?
Yes. Yes.
What department was he where is he rotating in?
Oh, Mark, do you happen to know the answer to that? I don't think I'm remembering tonight.
I don't know off the top of my head.
I'm sorry, Bevan. I can find that out for you.
Can we say who it is, or is that not announced either?
No, you can. You've caught me not remembering at the moment, although I've
okay,
heard the
very
name
well.
multiple times. It's someone I don't know very well,
Okay.
and I apologize. Maybe Mark remembers.
But I don't know that either.
This is Michelle. Can I just make a comment?
Please,
Yes, of
Michelle.
course.
I want to extend my appreciation for Sergeant Smith's work. I feel like he did a really good job as our liaison. And when I've encountered people in the public who were dissatisfied with their experience with the police department, I always encourage them to contact the department, in part because Sergeant Smith was so approachable and thoughtful, and I knew really wanted to do the right thing for the public. So I appreciated being able to encourage the public to use the resources that were available to them.
Yeah, thank you, Michelle, for that. I called Sergeant Smith here just a couple weeks ago to express the appreciation as well. I know that he's had a long career here, and I've appreciated working with him on the team as well. And let's see, anything else on the topic of new sergeant? You'll send us an email to give us some more information. Thank you for that. And likely we'll see this person at our January meeting.
Yes, I would think so too.
Okay. And I remember.
Well, do we need to make an official request for that?
I'm sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt, Chair Sherwood.
Sure,
I just learned from one of my colleagues that the person taking over as IA Sergeant is Corporal, I believe it's Corporal Lance Deedy.
Yes.
And he is, now that my memory has been jogged, he is currently a patrol corporal. And I don't know what other positions he's held within the police department.
Okay, thank you, Mark. And we'll get that details from Gretchen. And I would hope that he would attend, that we don't necessarily need to make a formal request, but
I will make a request, because I do think it's important that you have the opportunity to meet and talk with him. As I kind of briefly mentioned at the last meeting, and I think the group was interested in talking about that a little further. We've generally taken the approach of having police attend when there's a case review or when there's a training. And 99% of the time, it seems like there's at least a training
Yeah.
going on. And so we've had that, my understanding is the general thinking has been, otherwise it's the legal department and the city manager's office that staffs the board out of an interest in as much independence as possible and not kind of over having police at each meeting, recognizing we can't have a complainant at each meeting. We also, we want to give access to information and the opportunity to have information and at the same time, have that independence. And it's one of the things I'm really looking forward to with the audit process is studying the role and function of these types of boards and the staff configurations and what's going to end up making sense in the long run. But 9 times out of 10, you see the IA sergeant because they've usually identified and facilitated a training or providing some information. So I'll definitely invite him to the January meeting.
Thank you. I think that's probably another kudos to Sergeant Smith for always making sure that he's supporting the group as far as our information and training. He was great in coordinating that for us. Okay, and I understand are there any requests for review hearings?
Mm-mm.
None. Okay. All right, and we are at the point of board member comments, and maybe I'll look for hands if anybody has any comments, or Michelle, look for you.
No, thank you.
Hi, Bevan, please.
So I would just make a comment that we have over the years asked for a lot of information from the police department about some really basic operating information, and we haven't been able to obtain that. And we recently reiterated those requests in June and July of this year. And Gretchen, do you want to talk a little bit about how the capacity of the what the capacity is to be responding to these requests during the audit they're under, and helping us understand what are those requests still pending? Are we do we need to make new requests? Is that going to be addressed as part of the audit? Is all of our requests on pause until after the audit?
Thank you. Yes, I think the short answer is thank you so much for your patience and pending right now. I do think that the capacity in general has pivoted and focused on making sure to respond to the requests of the auditor and to the requests of City Council for information. And there's also kind of recognition of the dynamic nature of the topics and the information as we move forward, and wanting to be sure we have current and up-to-date details for you. So yeah, that is correct. I think we're in a period of time right now where it's difficult to also have information that's available and accurate as so many things are under review right now and current. I did want to say, I'm glad you asked me, because I was thinking to say that the police department prepared a document and kind of a briefing that's kind of some basic information that was shared with the City Council at their September 21st work session. And I don't know how many of you attended or watched that work session, but there's a presentation document there that you might find beneficial that covers some kind of primary information about the department that I'd be happy to share with everybody. We're also working right now on the council had quite a few questions coming out of that. And so there's a follow-up staff report that's being worked on right now that contains information about recruiting at the department, about information related to a mobile crisis response unit in the community, and related to behavioral health. And so there's going to be some information and detail there that is also being prepared for City Council that I'd be able to make available as well.
That would be great. I think if anything like that is produced, I would like to have that sent to me automatically without having to track it down or, know exactly where all these work sessions are happening, what the topics are. I would like to just say that I'm really kind of disappointed that in 2 years of asking for this data, we haven't been able to get it. And yet when the city council asked for it, that they were able to get it. I think that isn't the best from a transparency standpoint with the community. And from a transparency question as well, who chose who is on the steering committee and who was on the search committee for the police chief? Who made those final decisions about who is on the
steering committee? I'm just taking notes to make sure I caught what you just said. I'm backing up to make sure I heard you. You're observing disappointment in not having the data met, the data that you had requested.
I'm disappointed
provided.
that in 2 years of asking for this data, there was a lot of runaround and there was a lot of promises made that the department did not respond to. And then in the time that the city council asked, they were able to get this kind of data, apparently. I haven't even seen it yet. And that wasn't shared with us. So it doesn't feel as though our, as a board, the city is responsive to our requests in a timely manner.
I might start there and I certainly don't mean to minimize or disagree with what you're saying at all. I think one of the things that I wonder if maybe could have been better, or maybe I could have done differently to try to help with that, is to try to maybe change or alter the structure of the request a little bit. I remember we were observing there's not a report that seems to match exactly. So we paused and said, what is everybody interested in? And we collected, and you gave us a lot of really good questions, Bevan. I remember your list was a really good list of, here are the questions of the data.
I did significant research into best practices to create that list.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, because I think it reflects that. It looked like a thoughtful and good list. And so then Sergeant Smith went down the path of looking for what is the answer to these different data questions, and then kind of brought back a list, and appropriately so, you observed that it was a one-time shot as opposed to
Nope, that's not how it went.
That's not how you
So
he
gave his when we had the meeting where he gave a verbal list of
yes.
Data.
Yeah,
and I said that was inappropriate. And then we were asked to provide, well, then what would you want? And then we provided that in July of 2019. And we had no response for the next 3 to 4 meetings on those requests.
I remember coming back. I do remember a verbal report and then coming back with information that was presented, but it represented 1 year instead of multiple years. And then we, at the next meeting, worked on adding that in. I remember typing all of that into the minutes so that we would have a document of it. And so it reflected that one snapshot in time of some of the information, but not that historical data that would be typical in receiving data. And then we were building towards making a report that would be, I think we were getting lost in the idea of building a report that would be customizable to CPRB is what we were trying to do. And when I look back, I wonder if there was a way to simplify and like I think you've said before, what are the existing data points or reports that we could have worked from, maybe instead of trying to customize or create something. I don't know, but yeah, thank you. And I'm hoping to get to as a board, and maybe through this audit process, what I thought we were driving towards was an agreement of, here are the different data points that the board is interested in seeing on a regular basis. And then that can just be fed automatically, to your point about if something's created, just send it to us. So I will do that. I will look for the documents that as they're coming out and make sure that's part of your regular information report that comes your way. I think you had other questions about the selection of the.
Yeah, who made the final decisions? Who is on the selection committee for the police chief, and who made the decision? Who was on the steering committee for the performance officer?
At the end of the day, the steering committee selection, at the end of the day, it rests with our city manager. He received input from different sources and places as he has had a number of conversations with the elected officials in the community and with community members, and recognized wanting to collect an array of perspectives, and so started to gather suggestions and names and information, and then settled upon a group of people that wouldn't be too large but would hopefully reflect a diverse group. So the city manager, and then with input, with a lot of input. And then on the chief, that was more in a collaborative sort of process with the chief and the firm that we had utilized. They assisted us, and the human resources director was also a part of kind of making the decisions and selecting of who would be on the different groups. And we have 3 panels that are going to each be interviewing separately the candidates tomorrow.
Evan, thanks for your continued drive on the data points. I am hoping through the audit that we get to a chance to address the conversation as well. I think that we have seen it to be a challenging way of getting that information. And also, I think that we've also heard from the police department over time about using data points to help advance their work isn't maybe as strong as maybe we're used to seeing in other agencies. So I'm hoping that we get to hear more about the data points and how they expect to use them in the future, that type of thing in the audit. So we'll get the chance, I believe, as members of the committee to also voice that. So it'll be coming up again. Anything else from Bevan? Any other board members? Okay, well, if there is nothing else, I think that we could entertain a motion to adjourn for today. Michelle?
Yes, so moved.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll make a.
And all those in favor of adjourning? I guess we'll do the
Aye.
thumbs up. Aye, aye. Thank you all. We will see you in January, if not before. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
Bye.
Dr. Brown. Thanks, Mark.
Good night.
Thanks, Gretchen.
Thank you.